Somebody's microphone's on as well. Could you mute yourself, please? Thank you. Okay, a very good evening to everybody. Welcome to this Licensing Sub-Committee B meeting. My name is Gareth Sykes. I am the governance officer for this evening. Going to read out the remote meeting protocol, which is as follows. Only speak when invited to by the subcommittee chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand. You're going to do it by physically raising your hand, but it may be better to press the raise hand button, which should be at the bottom of your screen in Google Meet. And please direct all communications via the subcommittee chair. Please ensure that your mics are muted when you are not speaking. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated timeframes as set out in the hearing procedure, which hopefully everybody has read. If referring to any written submissions, please refer to the specific page number in the agenda pack. Any new evidence can only be submitted at the discretion of the chair and agreement by all the parties present. If you're having any technical difficulties, please use the chat function to alert the meeting or dial in using the details of the invitation. Please do not use the chat function for putting any formal questions to the subcommittee. Any persistent disruptive behavior will result in your removal from the meeting. I will give you one verbal warning. I will give you a second verbal warning. And then after that, we will remove you from this meeting. And then once the application has been considered, we've got 2 items this evening. So everybody for item 6, once we've finished it, please leave the room. And then we'll continue item 7. And the licensing service will then be able to inform you of the decision, a skeletal decision that is within 5 working days. And finally, I will be doing the timekeeping for this evening. So when you have 1 minute left, you will hear my dulcet tones go 1 minute. So obviously that will be time to wrap it up. But obviously you don't have to speak for the full 5 minutes. So that is me done for the remote meeting protocol. So could I now ask the councillors, please, to nominate, or should I say elect, a committee chair for this evening? Thank you.
I'd like to nominate, oh, can you hear me? I'd like to nominate Councillor Smythe.
Second, Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much, colleagues, and welcome everyone to this Licensing Subcommittee B, Monday the 1st of September 2005. There we go. Sorry, 2025. That's the pack. The agenda's on the inside sleeve. You might have it online or maybe a physical copy. But before we start, we'll just go around and just do introductions of officers and members. So I'm Councillor Smith, Chair of Licensing, and also a councillor in Stoke Newington Ward. Councillor Patrick.
Sorry, Councillor Sharon Patrick, Kingspark Ward. Sorry, there's a feedback on my line, so I'll be on mute unless I want to speak.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Palace.
Hello, I'm Councillor Palace. I represent Cavenove Ward. I'm also Deputy Cabinet Member for the Inclusive Economy.
Thank you very much. We have Amanda.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amanda North from Legal Services, and I'm supporting members this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And Suba.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Subhash Ramana, Principal Licensing Officer, and I'll be presenting the reports. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chewett.
Good evening. I'm David Chewett. I'm Team Leader, Licensing and Technical Support. I'll be making a representation on the EARTH application today.
Thank you very much, David. PC Humwick.
Hello, Chair. I'm here for the 10 second, I think. But yeah, PC
Right,
Humwick.
thank you. Excellent. Natalie.
I'm Natalie Kakai. I'm a Governance Officer, and I'm supporting Gareth this evening.
Fantastic. And Farouk is on here. Farouk, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us why you're here?
Hi, everyone. I'm Councillor Tinez from Hoxton East, and I'm just observing tonight.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Gareth, have I missed anyone? Because I can't see everyone on my screen.
Obviously, we've got the other person's chair, but I'm going to gather you'll probably get to them as we get to each item, each bit.
Yeah.
Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, bread and butter, obviously, you're a bit later, so you could sort of sign off for like 20 minutes, 25 minutes and come back then if you want. It's up to you. Amanda.
Yes, Joe, just wanted to clarify that Councillor Tinez is only observing the EARTH application because the second item is in his ward, and he will not be sitting or observing that particular application. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think we can go on to start the meeting then. We'll start with agenda item 1, which is election of chair, which we've done. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence, none at the time of writing. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest at all? I don't.
No, Chair.
No?
No.
Great. Fantastic. Agenda item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. There are no sets of minutes for consideration today. Agenda item 5 is the hearing procedure, which I'll just run through very quickly for everyone. It works in steps. Step 1 is the appointment of chair. Step 2, the licensing officer will present the report over 5 minutes. Step 3, the applicant will present their case. Again, this is over 5 minutes. Step 4, responsible authorities will come in. In this case, licensing and planning made a submission, but I don't think planning are here, are they, Gareth? They just made the submission.
I believe they've given their apologies for the evening.
Yeah, fantastic. So we'll have licensing there. And then we have other persons, which Gareth will lead on that and call the other persons for this particular item to come and speak. You've got up to 5 minutes, ultimately, but we would ask that you don't repeat things. If you've heard stuff and you want to repeat it, don't bother, and that could cut your time down to, say, 2 minutes, basically. So try not to repeat. That's really important. And then we have step 6, which is a discussion phase where we have kind of questions and answers and all that kind of stuff. Step 7, closing remarks, and step 8, final points of clarification. And then that'll be the end of the meeting, and we'll move on to the next agenda item. So is everyone clear on what's going to happen? Yeah, I'm seeing no dissatisfaction, which is good. Okay, so let's start then. If I could invite the principal licensing officer, please, to outline the report for this one. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Chair. So the first item we are going to consider is for a variation of the premises license received under Section 34 of the Licensing Act 2003 for the premises Earth 15 to 17 Stock Newington Road. The application seeking amendment to condition 36, so to permit the last entries from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m., to amend condition 44 to increase the capacity of area 3 theatre from 700 to 750, excluding the performers and staff, and to extend all the licensable activities hours from 3:30 a.m. to 5 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays in the ground floor area 1, Earth Hall. We have received additional submission from the applicant and from C1 and C11, and all these documents has been circulated. Representation remains from licensing and other persons in support as well as against, and I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
That's great. Thank you very much. Jack, I know you're there, Mr. Spiegler, and we've got Oro there, I believe. Is it Stephen, Greg, and Richard? Are they there as well?
Yes, yes, yeah. It'll
You're all
primarily.
there. Jack, would you like to run through everyone and just introduce everybody?
Yeah, of course. So, Chair, Jack Spiegler, solicitor for the applicant, sitting next to me in the same physical room.
Yeah, thank you.
Oro Foxcroft, I'm the applicant, founder of Earth.
And then Steve's in the same room, but you can see him on screen.
Yeah, brilliant.
We've got Greg logging in remotely. He's the DPS. And we've also got Richard Vivian, again, logging in remotely, our acoustic expert.
Fantastic. That's really great. Okay, Jack, I mean, off you go. I mean, you can run it how you want if you want to bring in people whenever.
Thanks,
so,
Chair. Okay, if before Gareth starts the clock, if I talk very quickly, I'll talk for about 3 minutes, then I'll hand over to Oro for 2 minutes and we should be
okay. Brilliant.
Thank you. Chair, Earth is a one-of-a-kind premises introduced to Hackney by a one-of-a-kind applicant. Over 500,000 people have enjoyed accessible and diverse theatre, arts, music and education hosted at Earth. It is exactly the type of premises recognised as making a positive contribution to Hackney in paragraph 1.11 of your policy, and a responsibly operated independent cultural venue which your cumulative impact assessment confirmed helps to reduce local problems in Dalston. The proposed increase in theatre capacity will promote an increase in attendance in arts and cultural performances with a greater diversity of genres and audiences. The proposed extension to hours apply to the ground floor hall on Fridays and Saturdays only, and this is a critical element of the application. It is absolutely not, Chair, about alcohol-led club nights. Instead, it will allow for an earlier live music show, followed by subsequent multidisciplinary music and cultural performances, as well as a more controlled dispersal. Your core hours policy does not prevent the hours being granted. It supports the principle of flexibility and confirms each application will be determined on its own merits. The proposed amendment to the last entry time will help a more controlled entry and external area management, which in turn helps to address concerns raised by the objectors. Oro is grateful to your EHO, the Hackney Knights team, and the police for engaging, none of whom have objected. There is a representation from the licensing authority, which we have sought to address in our policy submissions and by noise attenuation, and Mr. Vivian is here to assist you on that too. In the pack, you will see Oro's letter to the objectors explaining how concerns will be addressed, as well as invitations to meet, and he is extremely grateful to those friendly and reasonable residents that have engaged and have even spoken positively about Earth. And we hope this represents the start of a new neighbourly relationship with direct lines of communication, allowing Oro and his team to proactively enhance management procedures, including noise control and dispersal, in direct response to genuinely helpful feedback from residents. There are over 200 representations in support, ranging from hyperlocal residents, wider Hackney residents, local businesses, the Music Venue Trust, cultural institutions, and the Mayor's Office, and they are all asking you to please grant this application. Chair, just to close off from me, Oro is an applicant you can trust to continue contributing to Hackney's culture and at the same time promote the licensing objectives alongside Dalston residents. He's forever grateful to the Licensing Subcommittee for making the Earth project possible. And this application isn't made lightly. It's not all about corporate gain. It is instead to help ensure the longer term viability of a social enterprise in the backdrop of relentlessly difficult challenges faced by grassroots and cultural venues like Earth, which now more than ever are so important to protect and nurture. Thank you. Over to Oro.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Chair. As Jack said, the purpose of this application is to enable us to present more world-class music and art in Hackney. In doing so, we also hope to solve our ongoing financial difficulties. Everyone here will know of the issues facing grassroots music venues, art centres and hospitality in general, where over 25% have been forced to close since the pandemic. And we are not immune to these many pressures. The later hours we seek will allow us to start our weekend programme slightly later in the evening, in turn creating a new programming slot, early evening live music concerts. We have trialled this with great success at Village Underground, where we were able to programme an additional 30 early evening concerts each year, greatly helping our financial predicament and broadening our cultural contribution to the borough, and we hope to achieve the same at Earth. Earth's mission is to present a truly broad programme to reflect the wonderfully diverse communities of Hackney. To this end, we have recently hosted artists from across the globe.
1 minute left.
Syria, Mali, Nigeria, Zambia, Taiwan, Turkey, India, Congo, Brazil, Egypt, Mexico, Argentina, many, many more. And we would like to do more of that and ask that you grant this application to enable us to do so. In addition, events have been made possible. The events made possible by this will help us to continue Studio 36, our education and training programme for disadvantaged young people in Hackney, and I'm proud to report that that is going from strength to strength. We have held drop-in sessions with our neighbours over recent weeks and are extremely grateful for their time, energy and feedback, and in coming here tonight as well, for their support of Earth. And we've also made clear that there are improvements that are needed, particularly in respect of dispersal, where on several occasions neighbours have been disturbed. This is, of course, not acceptable for any reasonable operator, and I'm looking forward to discussing the resolution of those issues later on in tonight. We certainly pride ourselves on being a responsible operator, and we promote around 500 events in Hackney each year, with over 500,000 people having attended Earth since its launch. We can only do this.
That is over 5 minutes.
Please see.
Yeah, finish off, or it's fine. Just finish off.
We can only do this by pursuing the highest of standards, not only artistically and in terms of guest experience, but also through careful and considerate work with responsible authorities and neighbour relationships, which is what we want to continue to do, especially in respect of those issues which have been discussed recently with our neighbours. And I'd like to finish by reassuring the committee that should they grant our application this evening, the measures we implement, conditions set, will continue to promote the licensing objectives, and I'm committed to working with residents to ensure that they are not disturbed. Thank you, Chair.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Do members have any little point of clarity at this point? I've got one question I'd like to ask, if that's okay. Members, you happy? Yeah, okay, for the moment, until the discussion phase. Yeah, just on the, I just want to know about the capacity of the venue in general. Jack, have you had a fire risk assessment done? I'm sure you have, just to kind of indicate the sort of numbers that we're dealing with across the whole venue.
Yes, Chair. A fire risk assessment has been done, but there are actually conditions on the premises licence governing capacity. So the theatre, you've heard, is currently at 700, which we'll look hopefully get 750 for the reasons we've mentioned. The hall, or I will see, will correct me, I'm just trying to find the license, 1200. That's the subject of this application. And then the kitchen is 300. I'll get the condition reference for you in a moment, Chair.
Okay, brilliant. That's great. Thank you very much. That was it. Okay, so let's go to responsible authorities. In this case, it would be Mr. Chewett. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll keep this very brief because obviously got a lot to get through. So my representation is page 108 of the printed agenda. So within that, I just make reference to the potential for negative impact as a result of the proposed variation in hours. And we've heard that the venue does make a cultural contribution to Hackney and to Dalston in particular. I think that some years now since the first application and we first received or started to work with Mr. Foxcroft on this particular application. And over the years, we've had this is a variation, and there have been previous variations as well. So I'm satisfied that the venue, the way that it operates at the moment, is as has been described to you. There's no doubt about that. But of course, this new proposal could have a negative impact. So within my representation, I talked about very briefly just the venue being the subject of noise and nuisance complaints. I've received the updated dispersal policy. I do think that could be more specific in some places. I'm only just saying that now. I've not spoken to Mr. Spiegel about that, so must apologise for that. But maybe depending on the outcome of this hearing today, we can look again at the dispersal policy and how that works in particular for this venue, given its characteristics in the surrounding the area, the hours that's being proposed, and the amount of people that could potentially leave at 5 o'clock in the morning should you be minded to grant those hours. So there are a few things there, and I'm sure we'll get to those in the discussion phase. So I'll leave it there for now, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, David, for that. Any point of clarity for David at this point? I have one, just on the queuing management policy, David, because it's sort of related to the dispersal policy. Have you had a look? Have you managed to have a look at the queuing policy?
I've looked at the queuing policy. And on a number of occasions actually looked at queuing as it actually happens at the venue. So just given its size and the 3 different spaces, queuing can be a challenge at this particular site, depending on what's being programmed and how many people arrive at the same time, that sort of thing. But the queuing policy is welcome, and we have seen it in action on more than one occasion. Okay, great. Do members have any points of clarification at this juncture? Everything good? Okay. Gareth, would you like to call the others now, please? Okay. And remember, folks, try not to repeat things that have been said before. Thank you.
Okay, Chair. Now, according to the screen in front of me, and also my list of other persons here, I believe the first other person to speak will be C7 in your pack, which is on my screen, Serena Gill, if I've pronounced that correctly.
You have, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Perfect. So good evening, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. So I'm Serena, a local resident who lives directly opposite Earth, so less than 20 metres from the Truman's Road entrance. I'm also speaking on behalf of other Eagle Mansions residents who could not attend due to other commitments, but are fully aligned with the points that I will raise. My focus is not on the cultural value of Earth, which I recognise, especially as a queer person of colour, but on current on how current operations already undermine the licensing objectives and how extending hours till 5 a.m. would only make these problems worse. To be clear from the outset, I have no objection to the proposed increase in capacity. My concern lies entirely with the request to extend hours to 5 a.m. By not opposing the capacity increase, I hope it's clear that residents are not seeking to block Earth's contribution to Dalston, but are focused on the very real impacts later hours would have on the immediate neighbourhood. So with regards to the prevention of public nuisance, Earth's application states it has robust dispersal policies and that staff have been rebriefed on their importance. The reality is very different. Most weekends, I am disturbed by noise directly linked to crowds vacating Earth, and it often continues well into the night. The most recent video evidence I submitted, taken at 3:57 a.m. on Saturday the 23rd of August, after Earth's Carnival event, shows at least 30 to 40 people still loitering on Truman's Road and Stoke Newington Road within direct earshot of our homes. That's 27 minutes after closing. Crucially, there was not a single staff member in sight, no one in high res, no one moving people on, and as a direct result, I was kept awake until well after 5 a.m. Additional videos I submitted show the same failings. One clip shows clear drug use, while another filmed 90 minutes earlier demonstrates that patrons remain outside for extended periods. Again, no staff presence was visible in any of those videos. These are not isolated incidents. On the prevention of crime and disorder, the issue is not hypothetical. Some patrons leaving Earth are engaging in antisocial behaviour and sometimes criminal activity. In the past month alone, I've had to call the police twice because of incidents directly linked to the lengthy and unrelenting disruption caused by patrons leaving the venue. Extending hours to 5 a.m. would only prolong and intensify these problems at a time when police presence is at its lowest. Turning to public safety, poorly managed dispersals pose a serious risk. Large groups spill into the road, creating hazards for both pedestrians and traffic, also evidenced in the videos I submitted. Without consistent management, this is an ongoing and dangerous situation for everyone. With respect to cumulative impact, as you know, Dalston is formally designated as a special consideration area. That designation is only applied where cumulative impact is a real and ongoing concern. Extending Earth's hours to 5 a.m. when its dispersal policies are already failing under existing hours would clearly add to the impact. And finally, I want to underline the very human reality. This is not about opposing culture or creativity in Dalston. Many of us value Earth's artistic contribution, but residents should not have to expect that almost every weekend our sleep will be disturbed in the early hours. We should not feel unsafe when large groups gather outside our homes late at night. And personally, the sustained impact on my well-being is significant. I no longer feel confident that I can rest properly in my own home, something that is my right. That is the essence of the licensing objectives: safeguarding the public, preventing nuisance, and protecting those who live here. If dispersal were being managed effectively under the current license, perhaps an extension would not be met with such resistance by those of us who live closest to the venue. But the evidence shows that clearly it is not. Therefore, I respectfully urge the committee to reject the proposed extension of operating hours to 5 a.m. Please stand with residents to ensure that our well-being, safety, and quality of life are properly protected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Serena, for that. Just want to ask you a couple of questions very briefly. They had a residents meeting on the 14th. Did you manage to attend that at all?
I didn't. I was out of the country during that time, but we have a WhatsApp group and we kind of all keep in touch, and the people that did attend kind of gave us the laydown of what happened.
And do you ever kind of engage with the venue at all on these issues directly?
I haven't, to be honest, because they're so frequent that I suppose I've just never really considered that anything would be taken seriously. I know that some other residents have, but I moved in myself in February and have just been kind of shocked by how frequent it is.
Okay, thank you for that. Gareth, would you like to continue? Thank you.
Okay, Chair. According to my list, the next person to speak, it's C11 in your pack, but they are listed as a telephone number on the screen in front of me, as I believe they wish to remain anonymous for this evening. So if I could hand over to C11, please, to speak, and I will start my stopwatch.
Thank you, Gareth, and Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm going by C11 tonight, but if I go to court, of course, I would make a full statement. The extra capacity will have a direct impact, but my main concern is particularly the 2 p.m. late entry and the 5 a.m. end of licensing activities. And it's actually 5:30 a.m. for operational hours. The original grant of the license was on the basis that this premises would be run for a not-for-profit Hackney Arts Centre, but it's always been run as a commercial venture, and it's quite clear the applicant wants to programme more live music events and more nightclub type activities at the extended hours applied for. Mr. Chairman, I live a 10-second walk from the premises. I can see the inside of the premises from where I live, and I've been considerably affected by the nuisance from it. I'm affected by noise from it, front and back. I've found that mitigating the nuisance, which I described in my representations at C11, is simply beyond the scope of what the applicant wants to do. I don't want to be unfriendly, but as an agent of change, Mr. Foxcroft has caused me considerable nuisance and keeps wanting more. You can see from one of the pictures the view from the south, which includes the rear of the premises in Stoke Newton Road, Crossway and in Chelsea Place, which directly abuts the premises, and a view from the front that shows the lack of a ground floor presence. I agree with everything C7 has said. Mr. Chairman, the queuing, there is no lobby. You can see a picture of a very narrow corridor entrance, which looks like it's for a small basement club, not a venue for 1,200 people. The applicant says there's space for 200 people. It's a bit vague. Does he mean directly outside in the public realm? Because there's certainly no space in that narrow little corridor. The entrance to the ground floor isn't clear in the licensing plan, and it says later in entry to improve the entry process, although there's no real anything about that. That's just a claim. I can't see what difference it would make. I'm sure there'll be something said, but I'm not convinced. The queuing outside, the numbers blocking the pavement is considerable. It's extremely challenging. The original queuing would have been on Truman's Road for the cinema. I'm not suggesting that now, but I'm saying that's where it was originally. That's why it's an extra wide pavement there. Instead, there's a whole load of rubbish bins there now. I supplied you with pictures, daytime pictures, and that was actually the queue for Remy Bond. You can see that stretching all the way down Crossway, or part of the way down Crossway. And I believe from another representation, C10, I believe, that was for the smaller 700, currently 700 capacity venue. So imagine what that would be like for another 500 people in that queue. I've had also supplied you with pictures of people in the queue at night, after midnight, drinking, and the noise, the drinking and drunken customers isn't mentioned at all in the queuing management plan. Not a word of it, even though I've made that in my representations very clear. You can see images of a large queue with hundreds of people with cans of lager in their hand, and what the pictures don't show is the incredible noise that the people in that queue was making. People queuing after midnight will most likely have already consumed alcohol. I think you can take that as a given, Mr. Chairman. I've complained about the noise from the venue itself. The applicant has asked someone to come round and do a noise report. It's been suggested that there would be a particular frequency causing the problem. I didn't find that convincing. My home isn't directly connected to the premises, and there's a range of frequencies, the bottom end, the bass, which you can also see from other representations, which is the problem, and that's because it's just too loud. The applicant has described a similar approach in the additional materials provided. I would question the assertion that a firm would be independent. There's no sound limiter condition, and no sound report with this application, and smoking isn't mentioned either. And the dispersal policy, Mr. Chair asked the applicant to produce an updated dispersal policy. That was the only thing the applicant was asked to do by the responsible authorities. You may be wondering why I've included an image of the Turkish barber in my representations. Well, that is the venue, that is the premises of what was Diamond Cars. Maybe you want to ask Greg, the venue manager, why he doesn't know that Diamond Cars closed down well over a year ago, and yet it's there in his dispersal policy. The reality is cabs pick up by double parking on the A10 outside the premises, and claims have been made about a more controlled dispersal. I just don't believe there's any evidence for that.
Chair, that is 5 minutes.
I've been disturbed, particularly at 4 a.m. by dispersals from rowdy crowds, residential parking, particularly on Truman's Road, Salcombe Road and Pellerin Road, and car stereos on leaving are also very loud. Deliveries and collections, the applicant has always resisted the licensing conditions about equipment collection. I've been fobbed off on several occasions. The license was granted in 2017, that's 8 years ago. I read that the applicant still wants to investigate the possibility of doing something about this, but I can't really take that seriously. There should be a condition for this, Mr. Chairman, with equipment being thrown on the back of a lorry after this. There's also the persistent breach of licensing condition prohibiting deliveries in the early hours of the morning. I provided an image, and it's been going on for years. Smoking areas, that's not included. Where are people going to be smoking these signs? It's just not there. And finally, Mr. Chairman, it says that on page 73 that there's instructions for support letters. COVID ended over 3 years ago, and the Hope and Glory case has been flagged up. And of course, you can take commercial viability.
Yeah, that is no 1 minute
as an issue, but you shouldn't give that argument a lot of weight. The license is already incredibly generous. The purpose of the license scheme is to promote the licensing objectives. This application, the capacity, the late hours of operation are just incompatible with that. The current licensing conditions are not wide-ranging or above. Otherwise, there would be a sound limit of conditions and a prohibition on equipment moving like every other premises in the borough. I don't need an impact assessment to tell me I'm not suffering from the cumulative impact of licensed premises having an adverse effect on my health. Particularly interrupted sleep can be absolutely debilitating. I was woken up this morning by a dispersal from another premises in the area which has been given a lax license. I actually don't be swayed by a PR campaign, and I'm grateful if you showed a little bit of mettle in dealing with premises which will just simply overwhelm you with written material whilst providing little in the way of actual practical conditions which would mitigate the nuisance, and keeps on asking for these extended hours. And this is by far the most extended hours of any other premises in Dalston, for sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm very grateful to you.
You're welcome, no problem. Okay, Gareth, would you like to call the next one, please?
Okay, Chair, according to my list, we're now going to the section of speakers who are speaking in support. And looking at my screen, we're looking at my list. The first person on the list will be C12, Matt Wilson.
Hello there. Thanks for inviting me to this. I haven't really prepared a talk because I wasn't sure what it was you wanted me here for, and no one really briefed me or contacted me and said exactly what it is I should be saying. So I'm just going to kind of make it up. Okay.
Well, Matt, just give us your impression. Well, you've obviously you obviously support the venues. Just tell us why.
I do. I can't speak for living next to Earth, and I can tell those individuals feel very passionate, and I wouldn't want to belittle anything they've said or anything like that because they have their own experiences, but this is mine. So I've lived in Dalston for 25 years in this house. I live at the bottom of Arcola Street, so I don't live that close. I live about 4 minutes walk away from Earth, and I'm also someone who's been to Earth quite a few times. I've probably been there, I would say, 8 or 9 times to different things. I've been to the restaurant, I've been to the downstairs venue for club nights, I've been to the the upstairs venue for sit down kind of things, all kinds of different music, and very much enjoyed that. But what I've really appreciated is that I felt that Earth has rejuvenated the area compared to how it has been. And Earth is not alone in that. Other venues and economic activity has done that. But I feel that Earth in particular gives Dalston a very high quality venue that attracts very diverse crowds who personally, and as someone who comes through Crossway and passes Earth all the time, whenever I'm traveling, I'm not particularly bothered by the queues. I use the barber on the corner. I use the restaurants. When I see the queues, to me, I realize that might be inconvenient for some people, but that's a sign of Dalston being busy. When I was first living in Dalston 20 years ago, there was nothing like that. Taxi drivers wouldn't bring me back to this area. It was considered to be very dangerous. At night, I used to have to open my door and wait for my partner to walk home, to look down the street to make sure that she was okay. It was that dangerous. And also it was a well-known red light district surrounded by, unfortunately, addicted prostitutes. It was a very difficult place to live. And the changes in Dalston and the nightlife in Dalston, I hold attributable to the changes. I think Earth has continued to push that vector forward, make it a much safer place to be, culturally enriching the area. And I know, even though I hear noise too all the time from people coming out of Shacklewell Arms, for example, which is literally just across the road from my house, I would much rather have the noise of the people, and yes, sometimes they are drunk, which is allowed, than be in an area where nobody wants to go, that's very quiet, and there are dodgy characters in Dalston for sure, and where these people are the only people walking the streets. I'd much rather have young people in good mood, having a nice time. To me, that is of great value, and I would hate to see Earth bankrupted or unable to continue business and for us to take a backward step in this area.
Okay, thank you very much, Matt, for that.
Right.
Great. Next, Gareth.
Okay, Chair, according to my list and on my screen, it will be C22 Jessica Cole. Jessica, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Gareth, Chairman. Hi, my name is Jessica Cole. I am a resident of Dalston. I've lived here for just the last 3 years, so less than other people here, but very enthusiastic about being here. I moved to Dalston on purpose because I really love how active it is, both during the day and during the night. I live very close to Earth on our Kohler Street, so just around the corner, walk past the crowds, walk past the crowds of everywhere in Dalston, to be honest. It's busy on my street all the time as well. And it's absolutely noisy as hell sometimes. I consider that to be part of living in an area this active and somewhere this social, somewhere that people go out of their way to go to. I walk into my apartment and people sort of stop me and they're like, "Oh my God, do you get to live here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, pay out through the nose for the privilege of living next to your noise all the time." But I think that Earth has done a stellar example of what a late night venue can be, particularly in a city that's lost its nightlife venues at a rate of absolute knots. In the years since I've lived here and in the years since I've been coming to London, which is 12 years now. My sister's been here since whenever 12 years ago was. And it is, I've always been really impressed by, first of all, the huge variety of events and audiences Earth caters for. I know there's been a lot of comments, and sorry, I joined this a bit late, so I probably missed some, about the queuing system, which I thought was absolutely insane when I joined here, because I would always just walk down and be like, who are all these people? But now I actually really enjoy, because I love seeing like the dynamic of the crowd and who's there, and everyone just always seems so excited. They start queuing up so early because these are events that people are so excited for, that they're being served where there isn't really a lot of space for some of these events. In the day, I've been to daytime events, nighttime events, late night events at Earth. I've really enjoyed all of them. Been really impressed by the safety measures in place, by the responsibility of the staff, by the engagement of security, and by the general atmosphere of the people who are going. As I said before, like the diversity of the events attracts a very diverse range of crowds. So there can be differences there in how people go, but I universally have seen the vast majority of those people, behaving well, being excited, respecting the queue, and just being really pumped to get to go to an event there. And I think that's what a great late night space is all about. I think that, there's always going to be a couple of bad eggs who are drunk, who are loud, who throw rubbish around. I don't think that is a problem unique to Earth. I don't think that is a problem unique to Dalston. And it's certainly not a problem unique to the streets around me. But I think that if we punished everyone based on the behavior of a couple of bad eggs, we wouldn't get to have anything nice. I feel a lot safer having late night venues open in the area. I travel a lot for work and I work quite late nights sometimes. Coming home to a pumping street always makes me feel a lot safer than when it's a quiet, it's a Sunday evening and things have shut down pretty early. I've always felt safe in Dalston. I know that some of the stats don't always back that up, but I live alone here, and I've always felt very comfortable walking the streets, very comfortable coming home at night. Like the people who are local, who are visiting, who are all of that, are just excited to be here and a part of it. There's areas where I'd love to see Dalston get a massive improvement in terms of behaviour, but that's mostly my massive complaints about rubbish, which I noticed that Earth has responded to specifically about the way that they manage commercial rubbish on their premises. That was great, because that's honestly my biggest objection to having people come in here, but that's because I'm from a country where we take rubbish really seriously. Otherwise, I am just really supportive of extending the hours, extending the capacity. I think it's a real boon to add, not just for Dalston, but for London overall. I would certainly be taking advantage of some of those late night events. It'd be easy to get tickets to some of the stuff I really want to go to. And I'm really impressed by the thoughtfulness that's gone on, both in the events that I've been to, that I see happening on, and that I've seen in the submission here. Now, apologies, I'm a very fast talker, but I'm going to pause there.
Yep. Great, Jessica. Thank you very much. Very clear. Thank you for that. So, Gareth, any more?
Okay. The last person I have on my list. Now they are C31. On the screen, they are listed as England coordinator, but I believe he is content to be referred to his real name, which is Lloyd Bent.
Hiya, yeah, that's me. This will not take 5 minutes because I didn't realise I had 5 minutes. My name's Lloyd. I work for the Music Venue Trust. Music Venue Trust is a charity, and it provides advice to the government, the cultural sector, the music industry on issues impacting the network of venues, and it's the nominated representative that speaks on behalf of the Music Venues Alliance. That's an association of over 800 venues across the UK, of which Earth is one. Despite playing such a pivotal role in our world-famous music industry and nighttime culture offering, the UK is losing grassroots music venues at an alarming rate. Jessica alluded to that. MVT's annual report in 2024 reported 80 ceasing live music provision, with 46 closing entirely. And MVT's position is that in order for Hackney to maintain its reputation of being the creative heart of London, which it refers to itself as in its cultural strategy, we would urge the council to support successful business operators who are working to drive the market, taking risks on grassroots musicians and developing the talent pipeline. Extended hours will enable Earth to start and finish its club events later, and in doing that, they'll be able to add live music slots beforehand, and this bolsters Earth's already exemplary cultural offering to the area. Having the flexibility to open for extended hours on evenings and weekends is often the difference that allows GMVs to remain financially resilient in the face of all the different economic factors that contribute to their closure, which is very much in the news at the moment. You'll probably have seen it being talked about. Based on MVT's experience of the sector, we'd also suggest that this licensing variation will allow guests to leave in a more controlled and phased manner, mitigating noise concerns around queuing and dispersal. Rarely do longer hours mean continuous capacity audiences. In practice, what it can lead to is a staggered egress, which can help with some of the concerns raised today. Furthermore, many months of the year, the proposed hours would see dispersal into daylight and shortly before the first tube departs, which means that people may spend less time outside because people leaving later will leave faster in order to get home. The operators of Earth have extensive experience working in the nighttime economy. They have vigorous operational policies in place, and Earth is one of the first venues credited via the Hackney Nights Best Practice Scheme. Earth's existing license includes comprehensive safeguards, and Earth's management teams are increasingly professional and can be relied upon to ensure no public nuisance, crime or disorder will be caused by the proposed change, and to work with local residents around these matters too. The Music Venue Trust has looked at the proposal offered by the applicant, and we're satisfied that these would fully promote the licensing objectives if this application was granted as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Luke. Very good. Gareth, is that it for other persons?
Chair, I believe that is indeed it for other persons.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll now move into the discussion phase. I'll just kick off very briefly, members, before you guys come in. Just on I wanted to ask Richard, I think it's Richard Vivian. You're the acoustic consultant, Richard. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about, I don't know, the building, the transfer of bass frequencies, sort of, just in general around the area. What's your professional sort of view on the kind of the spillage really of that bass frequency around the area?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I mean, first of all, it was a purpose-built building for public entertainment. It was built as a cinema, and although you think, well, actually, a cinema is quieter, it's very important that a cinema is soundproofed. It's very important that in the performance of a film, you don't hear a bus driving past outside and things like that. So it's a substantial building, and it's tried and tested in its use. So it's not like we're looking at a brand new application here for a new live music venue. It's already been tried and tested. Now, on the way, over the years that it has been operating, there have been some questions about noise levels, and alongside your officers, we've been in and we've changed the way that sound systems are coordinated, and we've set levels in different areas of the venue to ensure that it's consistent in operation. It does concern me when I hear that residents are saying, well, actually, you know, we're being disturbed by particular noise here, there, and whatever, because this happens in plain view. There are all the normal methods of recourse that you would expect a venue operator and, of course, the local authority and police, if you want, to take in terms of ensuring the venue is properly controlled. If there are noise problems, if there are ongoing noise problems, that's of concern to my client. And I know as part of the process of engaging with local residents, an offer's already been made to go in and check levels from anybody's property to ensure that we are complying with the licensing objective and we are upholding the prevention of public nuisance. So it works. It currently works to 4 a.m. and if it didn't work on the whole, we would be dealing with this with your noise expert, with your
Richard, can I just ask you about how close are the sort of the rooms, if you like, to that external wall? I mean, is there a volume of space between the rooms and the wall, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think on the external wall into Truman Road, there's a sort of service corridor and
right. So there's a space between the rooms and
space, but again, we have. I think one of the residents mentioned, well, there's no limiter condition. There's no limiter condition because there's a live music. It's a live music venue, and
I think there's a limiter condition 64 in area 2, the cafe.
Yes, in the cafe, and we've set that. We set that with Rockwool Charles a few years back, and I understand that's being dealt with. The sound system's, you know, babysat by skilled professional engineers, as you would expect, and they have constant noise monitoring. So they're constantly having reports and logged data of the noise levels in the venue. And
have you done any noise levels outside on the road?
Yes, we did at the beginning, Chair. So and then revisited it with Rockwool Charles. I'm afraid I don't have the notes in front of me, but I'm guessing 2 years ago.
Can you remember what the results were?
Well, we got to the point where we had controlled noise breakout to the point. Well, we visited a number of residential properties, so we got to the point where your officers were satisfied that everything was acceptable. And of course, that's a process we'd be more than happy to revisit at any time again in the future.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that, Richard.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like to open the floor to members for questions now, please. And by the way, anybody else wants to come in, just notify me. Gareth, help me with this. And we can bring you in at various points.
I'd like to say a word, Mr. Chairman, when you're available. Thank you.
Fantastic. I've got you C11, but I'd just like to bring in members now, if that's okay. So members, Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Could I ask the venue? We've heard from local residents about the problem. We just heard the new acoustic consultant about the noise, but I'm concerned about the queuing arrangements, the noise from queuing, the lack of staff managing queues, etc. You know, there's lots of people saying what a wonderful venue you are, and I'm sure you are a wonderful venue. You do really great things by the looks of it. But we also have to take into account the local residents who live nearby and your impact on them. So I wonder, the licensing officer said he'd only just got your report and thought things could be tighter about dispersal and about queuing. And I wondered, whether you could employ more staff be they SIAs or supervisors, I don't know if they have to be, or staff, to manage the queues, to make sure that people are queuing in the right place, that the queues are moving quickly, that people are not drinking and shouting in the queue. I know you can't stop people, but you can advise them and perhaps say that they couldn't get entry into your premises if they're disturbing the neighbours. Also about people coming out, whether you can employ SIAs to disperse the people coming out, and away from Truman Road and Eagle Mansions and Salcombe Road, which is a heavy residential area, and along Stonington High Street, where I gather there's 24-hour night buses, and then perhaps also down to Dawson Junction, where I think the overground runs on a Friday and Saturday night over all night. I mean, it does seem to me that I feel that you're not doing enough to disperse the clientele to the detriment of the local residents, and I wonder what you can offer the committee in the way of assurances that if we were to grant the 5 o'clock, that this is something that you would take on board, and we could put a condition on to make sure that this happens.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Can I say, sort of as delicately as possible, that the applicant wasn't previously aware of some of the issues that have been raised in the written representations and this evening recently, and in fact until the application was made. So there has been, in terms of the evidence, and we've not no representation from your environmental protection officer, any evidence of complaints or substantiated noise complaints. As so often happens, when an application goes in, that often brings about representations, and then it provides a forum like this for local people to raise concerns. And although, of course, we prefer no concerns were raised, we are glad that these concerns have been raised, because it has given Oro and his team an opportunity to meet a few local residents so far, meet them in person. We're very grateful to them. Also have a telephone conversation with another local resident that made an objection. And that has opened a line of communication with those residents, so direct feedback can be made and, importantly, can be incorporated into the operational management procedures. Now, despite what I've said, of course, the applicant is sympathetic to the concerns raised, and of course, the applicant recognises that improvements can be made, and of course, the applicant will work with Mr. Tuitt and take on board his very sensible suggestion, and I hope if the application is granted, will absolutely work. Well, in fact, if the application is granted or not granted, the applicant will work with Mr. Tuitt to take on board his expert advice on how the dispersal policies and how the queuing management policies can be enhanced. What we are confident with, what we'd like minuted, is that this is an applicant with a track record in these circumstances, that when feedback like this is made, they do act upon it. And when they act upon it, they implement procedures that will absolutely address concerns raised. There are conditions, Councillor Patrick, in the licence referring to queuing management and dispersal. One of the conditions requires those documents to be lodged with the licensing authority. We've done that with the policies you've got in your pack, but we would absolutely undertake to go back and look at those and submit enhanced procedures in accordance with that condition. That's it from me. I'm just going to hand you over to Oro just to underline and assure you on some of the things I've said.
Yeah, we've just had 8 minutes on this. We've got 15, but let's just carry on.
Councillor Patrick, when we opened, we did have several complaints about queuing. We worked carefully with David Tuitt's team and the local licensing police to come up with a queuing policy that was overseen and monitored by local police until they were happy with it. You'll note that Amanda Griggs has not put in a representation from the police, and queuing hasn't come up so far. So to the best of our knowledge, the queuing system was acceptable. However, if it is not acceptable, I'm very happy to go back and work on that again, and I'm very happy to work with the council and with the local police so that it's done to their satisfaction. I do feel that that is resolvable. In terms of dispersal, we've been talking amongst ourselves about additional measures, which came about from very positive discussions with some neighbours from Eagle Mansions over the road, where our objector today also lives. Those conversations were positive, proactive and supportive. They did not go to some of the points raised today, which I'm surprised to hear about. But the line of direct communication has been opened, and they will be working directly with Steve, our new operations director, recently put in post with a direct 24-hour hotline to resolve anything that could come up in the future. And I hope that we can get to conditions in this meeting that would satisfy the committee.
Brilliant, thank you. Councillor Powers, I know you're waiting. Can I just take Councillor Patrick just first on this particular point? Councillor Patrick.
Yeah, I've heard some very nice words, and I'm sure you will work with the residents, but I did ask about whether you'd be prepared, if we put the conditions in, that you'd be prepared to put in extra staff to manage these dispersal problems we've heard about and the queuing, because I think that's what's needed. So, you know, I'd like perhaps something just to comment on, you know, those proposals, extra staff to manage the queuing. I think you've got 5 SIAs, which for my mind, it's not a lot in a very large building like yours.
Thank you, Councillor. Forgive me, I promise I'm trying not to dodge conditions, but one great thing about Earth is that there is a real diversity of programming. So this is not a venue that every single Friday and Saturday night they are full to capacity with a higher risk event that requires lots and lots of SIA supervisors. There will be much lower risk, lower capacity events happening all the time, and we wouldn't necessarily want to burden the applicant with extra conditions which make those events unviable due to the extra supervision required.
Jack, can I just chip in here?
Yeah.
There are a couple of conditions here. Condition 19 talks about 5 SIAs.
Yeah.
I don't think anything mentions risk assessment, which might be useful.
Yeah.
Because some of those, like 61, for example, is another condition on page 190.
Councillor Smith, it does. It says additional SIA registered supervisors to be employed on an operational risk assessment basis. Is
that condition 19?
That's in condition 19. Yeah.
Oh, okay, brilliant. Yeah. So that's there already.
Yeah. Okay. One condition, if it helps, councillors, that Oro, Steve and I did discuss this evening, particularly in relation to dispersal directly in response to C7's feedback this evening, is a condition along the following lines, if you are minded to grant, but whenever licensable activities are provided in Area 1 Earth Hall beyond 1 AM, at least one SIA registered supervisor equipped with body cam and radio shall be on duty outside the premises on Truman's Road and or Salcombe Road to prevent persons loitering from at least 1 hour before the scheduled closure time to at least 30 minutes after closure. And that's specifically to address the concerns raised and also, you know, the issues identified in those videos that were served recently as well.
Yeah. Councillor Patrick, is that a legacy hand? Do you want to come back?
No, sorry, that's a legacy hand. Sorry.
Yeah, just to say, Jack, that's very welcome to stay on for half an hour after the venue shuts. We found in the past with other venues that's really good to have some kind of high-vis people out there, you know, basically sort of managing the crowd, trying to get them to disperse quietly and everything.
Yeah.
It's just down round that corner where it goes down the other way. Can we get some like security staff down there? Because I think it does say in the queuing plan that they would be down there, but I think other people have said that they very rarely see people down at that corner if the queue extends down there.
Yeah, so I'll hand you over to Oro on that one, Chair, if I may.
Yeah, Chair, we can tighten that up. We do have people at specific locations along that queue, and then we do have, as the queue disperses into the building, people going up and cleaning up some rubbish. Like, you know, we can tighten that up and add to that. I'd be happy to work with David on that, you know, if queuing is still in.
Yeah, because I think that would be useful to have some people down there as well when it's like really busy.
Yeah.
Okay, Serena, I can see you've got your hand up. C11, I'm conscious of you as well, but I'd just like to bring in Councillor Palace because Councillor Palace hasn't had a question yet. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify with condition 19. So, as I mentioned, additional SIAs, registered supervisors, to be employed on an operational risk assessment basis. I'd just like to understand how many events where you've done a risk assessment where you've had to employ more than 5 SIAs, whether you have that kind of information available.
I don't have that information available at the top of my head, but can go into the files and get it for you. Many of our events are low risk events, and then there are higher risk events when it's a late night event that's sold out, for example, when we have crowds that are predominantly younger audiences, because we do like to try and do cultural provision for young people as well, or, you know, when there's events that there's, you know, kind of some celebrity artists or, you know, high profile artists where we need extra crowd control management or, you know, extra exits covered, that kind of thing. The risk assessment is in 5 tiers, and we came up with that in partnership with the local police, and we can revisit that as well if that's necessary.
And just a quick follow-up. So just in terms of when on for a large event, and the risk assessment has said, you know, beyond 5 SIAs, so if it comes to that, through that, do you kind of on average, how many SIAs would you have for an event like that? Is there a kind of a figure you might be able to?
So I think we often have, you know, 10 staff on, if we've got a busy event, 12 staff on, like that.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and or that would be when the venue's sort of like full.
That's when it's full, you know, and we mostly deploy those inside the venue. So, you know, there's multiple fire escapes, that kind of thing. There's different crowd movement to control. But I think what we are thinking about here is redeployment of some of those staff onto other areas, both before the show kicks off properly to make sure the crowd, and then after the event, or you know, during the dispersal period, and then after the dispersal period, and as Jack said, with body cams and radio, so that they're on radio with the rest of the team should they need anything.
Yeah, and what about smokers, Ora? What happens to smokers?
Smoking all happens in designated smoking areas on the top of the building. You can see on the licensing plan, and particularly we built a large one on the north side of the building.
So people tend not to go out onto the street; they stay within the building.
People don't smoke on the street now.
Yeah, I mean, not within the building, but kind of within the sort of
yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay, C11.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Apologies. Yeah, I think what I really want to emphasize more than anything is just simply the enormous capacity you're dealing with here. 1,200 people. That's the fire limit for the ground floor. You know, you can talk about people, you know, staggered dispersals and all sorts, but 1,200 people, even a staggered dispersal, is just an enormous capacity, an enormous amount of potential for nuisance. I'd like to hear the applicant suggesting that he treats the residents of Stoke Newington Road in an equal way as he proposes for those in Truman's Road, because I haven't heard that. I think if you're living on Stoke Newington Road, Mr. Chairman, it's already difficult enough as it is. I didn't hear anything about body cams and extra people here. You suggested it. The applicant, yeah, suggested maybe you'll tighten up things. I don't want to get into an argument about this building built in 1937 as a cinema, and the 20-watt speakers it would have contained then. There is no sound limiter condition for either area that is the subject of this application. There's no soundproofing for the second floor. You can see that from the applicant's own pictures. There's never been a sound report which includes an area to the south of the premises where the Essence development is, where the on Salcombe Road, not Salcombe Road, Celty Place, Crossway and Stoke Newington Road. Never been a sound report for that. Certainly not at the beginning. No noise tests for south of the premises. I keep saying there's nothing in the queuing management plan about drinking in the queue or drunks in the queue, despite my representations. Still very well having a big consultation process and saying everyone's invited to join in, but I've made representations. There's nothing there about it. Yeah, you thought that's a really obvious risk to public nuisance and crime, but nothing. And there was a risk assessment, but only after a police review. And as I say, there's a dispersal policy which features a cab firm that doesn't exist. It's been signed off for by your venue manager. So I'm not really getting a great big vibe here that there's really robust conditions here for anything. That's going to convince me that this isn't just going to add to the direct and cumulative impact of what I've been experiencing from these premises. And, you know, everything's just vague. Why haven't conditions been proposed in advance for this? Why is it only now that, oh, well, maybe we'll tighten things up, maybe we'll do something about it? These things are obvious.
Okay, C11, there's quite a lot there. Jack, I hope you had a pen. But yeah, I'd like you to come back in some of those, both you and Oro and whoever else.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I'll hand you over to Oro straight away, and then I'll hand over to Richard because he's got something to say on the noise report as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to say in response to that much of what's said there isn't factually accurate. We do have soundproofing measures. We have updated them in response to any noise complaints that we've had. We have a lot of
on the second floor. Have you got them on the second floor?
Yes, indeed, we have.
Well, I don't see that in the pictures that you've supplied. I don't see any soundproofing there.
Well, I very much invite you to come in and have a look at them, and I can talk you through all of them. And we have neighbours very close to your apartment that we've worked with really carefully, and we have been into their apartments. We've taken detailed sound readings. We've employed Richard Vivian to come in and look at the results of the monitoring, and we've worked with them to change control settings on the amplifiers and set decibel limit, and we have conclusively solved those problems. And if we hadn't, they'd be here this evening and they'd be in the objection letters. But
where's the evidence? You've got to make a case. You have to
come through the chair, C11. I know I can't see you, but you have to come through me, I'm afraid.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, but the applicant has to make a case and prove his case, and there's no evidence to suggest what he's saying. Yeah. There's no evidence to suggest what he's saying is true. I mean, provide the evidence.
I would be happy to provide that evidence. There's extensive email correspondence with our neighbours, and there's extensive email correspondence with Rockwell Charles, I beg your pardon. As we went through that entire process, there's a lot of email correspondence with.
Yeah, you're supposed to provide the evidence for the hearing now, not later.
Okay, through the chair, please.
Respectfully, the application is in respect of the two other areas of the venue and not the area that you're talking about.
No, it's not. It's about the second floor and the ground floor.
This is a discussion amongst everybody. Please.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman, but the applicant has made falsely represented me. This application is about the second floor and the ground floor. That's what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, and Oro's tried to reassure you that all the evidence is there.
Well, it's not in front of me. Not what he said isn't in front of me for this hearing, for this meeting.
Okay.
Chair, if I may, I mean, we're also looking at photographs from almost 5 years ago that were served just a couple of hours ago from C11, which all puts us in a difficult position. Mr. Vivian might be able to help on some of that evidence because that has been before the licensing authority and C11 in previous applications.
Yeah, Mr. Vivian, do you want to come in?
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. In 2017, I think my report dates June 2017. There was a comprehensive assessment of the building for the original application, including noise breakout tests from from all the source rooms into a large number of receptor locations, including residential properties near the
two locations. One was at the front of the premises, and the other was the corner of Truman's Road and Stoke Newton Road on the opposite side of Truman's Road. Nothing south of the premises.
Chair, as I said, there was a comprehensive amount of data put in front of the committee at the time of the original application hearing, and all those tests were done and informed further works at the premises. That was in 2017. There've been subsequent other tests. I think we've got a date.
And to the south, Mr. Vivian, to the south of the venue?
Yes, that was well, I think primarily the noise breakout issue there was from the kitchen area, and that's when we worked with Rockwell Charles in 2023, and did a further report there and set levels there.
Okay, great.
So it's
So
all
the answer is no.
It's all in the pub.
Yeah, and I'll just come in as well that C11 will have received letters and messages back in 2023 inviting him to take part in acoustic test. Then he's also received the Oro's letters this time around, which was the original letter, a follow-up email, and then another email after that, again inviting him to engage and take part in sound test. But
Yes, but there's been no sound limiter condition offered.
But have they been into your flat?
No, Mr. Chairman. Why would I invite someone into my flat who?
Because you're worried about the noise. That's why.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm worried about the noise, and the last thing I want to do is invite people into my flat who are deliberately trying to prove that the noise isn't a problem.
Okay.
It's not independent, Mr. Chairman. That's the bottom line. If I had an independent assessment, say from the council, then maybe, but not.
But
from,
I think
not
Mr.
from the
Vivian has been
applicant's
working with
own
the council. Anyway, I want to
not from the applicant's own. Not from the applicant's own acoustic engineer. No, that's not acceptable.
Okay.
I don't.
I want to bring in Serena now because Serena's been waiting for ages. Thank you for your patience, Serena, and then Councillor Palace.
Yeah, thank you. I suppose on the point around having one person on the street an hour before and up to 30 minutes after, just from the evidence I submitted, which was as recent as the 23rd of August, which occurred after the staff were supposedly rebriefed, there are around 30 people loitering, and more that you actually can't really see in the video. Well, you can see them through the window of the Turkish restaurant on the corner. So I would just say that one person manning the street is absolutely not sufficient, and the staggered leaving is actually surely worse than one burst of people leaving, because you're having that kind of extended disturbance over several hours. And I'd also just like to reiterate what Arrow said about 10 to 12 members of staff, although granted most of them are inside. Again, I'd just like to stress from the evidence I submitted, there wasn't a single member of staff visible on the street in any of the videos that I submitted. So just to reiterate, yeah, the current dispersal policies are not working. They're failing under the existing license. We have such little respite on the street from when the bottles are then collected at 6 a.m. So I would just urge the council and the committee members to really take that into account. This is a lived reality that we experience most weekends. And I will also state that on the 23rd of August, when I was disturbed until 5 a.m., I've obviously got double glazing. And I also had an industrial size fan on, because that's the only way sometimes that I can sleep, is having that kind of white noise. And I was still disturbed beyond that. So just to give it some context.
Yeah, thank you for Serena. Those comments will be noted. Councillor Palace.
Yeah, just in terms of residents who are raising opposition, thank you for attending and beyond your contributions. I just wanted to clarify, have you ever reported noise to the council? And because noise has to be observed by basically a council officer. I just wanted to clarify whether you've been able to do that through the council's website.
I've not done it
Yes.
to the council, but I've called the police.
Okay.
I have informed the council, councillor.
Okay, thank you. And has an officer, because an officer has to observe the noise, so has an officer ever, a council officer ever come and observed the noise?
I think you're talking about a statutory nuisance situation. If I had the benefit of a statutory nuisance situation, I wouldn't be here talking about licensing.
Okay, but it's just to clarify, because if you were talking about kind of noise complaint, then you would go through kind of raising it with with the council, and then a council officer would need to kind of observe. So I just wanted to clarify that, so there hasn't been, you haven't logged an official noise complaint.
I have logged several official noise complaints. But the issue is, Councillor, that if you have a dispersal, and it's very noisy for, say, 10 minutes as a huge crowd leaves, and then maybe you've got a crowd coming out, hanging around for another, say, half an hour, and then you've got a few stragglers, and maybe they're playing music, maybe a car turns up with stereo. It's not really amenable to a statutory nuisance situation, especially at these hours. The noise team is just not available at these hours at 5 AM. You will not be getting a statutory nuisance situation here. But it's just not amenable to that kind of statutory nuisance control. What it needs is proper licensing.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And just a quick one for the applicant. I just, when you do have SIAs for kind of major events, and it's going over 5 SIAs, and you've done a risk assessment, how many SIAs tend to be on the street?
So we usually have, for a big, very busy sold-out show, we'll normally have 4 or 5 outside the front of the door, dispersing people away from the venue, and we have one person that will rove around at different places. And I accept that Serena's point is that there have been occasions when they haven't been on Truman's Road or Salcombe Road at the point that they should have been, and that's something that we'll tighten up on.
Can I just clarify around the licensing policy, Councillor Smith? Around, is it one SIA per 100? Is that correct?
That's sort of normal. That's what's kind of recommended normally, is 1 per 100 customers.
Yeah, and it might go up to that under that risk assessment under condition 19, and everything is managed dynamically. So in the middle of the event, more SIA supervisor and general staff are going to be stationed inside the premises for obvious reasons. But as the night progresses and people start moving outside, they'll start transitioning dynamically, depending on the time and how many people are still in the venue, outside to assist with that controlled dispersal. That being said, absolutely, feedback received this evening is going to be taken on board and implemented into enhanced dispersal procedures.
Yeah.
I was just going to say a quick one. Would you be amenable to a condition where we specified over, a certain number of attendants, a specified number of SIAs would need to be present and on the street?
We might need a little bit of time to talk about that internally, if that's okay, Councillor. I mean, with your typical licensed premises that will have a regular fixture of events, that's much easier to predict and plan for. But with Earth, it's such a broad range of entertainment and events. There might be a super low risk event with, for example, a much older client base, and it's very difficult then to make that event viable for everyone. If you've got 10 SIA supervisors.
But Jack, I think
I'm sorry, I'm trying not to avoid it, but I'll hand you over to Warren just on that point.
I'm pretty sure that we can come up with something that would work, and it would be helpful if we could have a bit of time to do this, because as Jack said, we'll have, comics doing things in Hindi where nobody drinks, and we'll be having, small jazz events and all that kind of thing. So I think the way to do it would be to affix that to hours. So, when it becomes a late night event rather than an early evening comedy or poetry or live music event. So affixing it like that to later hours over certain capacities or something like that.
Yeah, but I'm sure the licensing authority will be happy to work with some wording on that. Okay, it's great that you're going to do something on queuing, but C11 mentioned something which was interesting, which was they used to queue back onto Truman Road, and obviously the people from Eagle Mansions or whatever wouldn't be happy about that. But have you ever thought about sort of maybe using some of that as well as the pavement on the south side, or is that just a no-go? I know you've got bins out there as well, which is kind of another sort of issue potentially.
We did opt at the very beginning of Earth in 2017 not to queue down Truman's Road because it was very built up residentially. I do appreciate that Julian and other neighbours do exist on Stoke Newton Road and round the corner. Queuing would also be easier if we could get rid of some of these legacy broken phone boxes and things like that, so that we can have a queuing system that's a bit further away from Julian's window. And that's something we could perhaps work on with the council. But I think just queuing management, or perhaps the use of more rails or something like that, take that away, take it on board, point noted. We can try and work on that.
What about drinking?
Well, I did
drinking up to 2 a.m. on the pavement outside my bedroom window at massive volume. You haven't mentioned that at all.
Respectfully, though, last entry into Earth on a Friday and Saturday night is 1 a.m. and we rarely have queues like big queues.
You're proposing 2 a.m.
I'm proposing 2 a.m. to help get rid of queues, because at the moment, if we have a very busy event, we can have a queue that's longer than we'd like late at night. What we'd like to do is have people not queuing outside, and that means we just, because if you say no entry at 1 a.m. and a load of people get there at midnight, then you start to have a queue. But if people start coming in drabs, well, I'm talking from experience of operating. The committee could say they don't want to accept that change of condition, but I'm putting it forward precisely because I do genuinely believe that it will help with queuing.
Because it doesn't make any sense, because you're proposing an early event and a later event. So you're just essentially saying there will be a dispersal from an earlier event, then there'll be queuing for another event. So it doesn't make any sense for you to say that somehow that will improve queuing.
Yeah, but last entry's at 2.
Yes, 2 a.m. and people will be already consumed alcohol. And if you can see in the pictures, people will be consuming alcohol in the queue.
Yeah, the thing is about
and
that,
there's nothing.
I'm not quite sure what we can do about people drinking in the queue. It's a public space, It's like we can't start telling people not to drink on the street,
Well, hey, prevention of public nuisance licensing objective. Hey, go figure.
Yeah, well, I mean, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with being woken up by a huge crowd of people drunk and consuming alcohol on the street, right outside my bedroom window. I'll take that. Thanks.
Okay, there was another point that I just wanted to raise about the equipment essentially being dropped off, because you did mention in your submission somewhere about kind of maybe building an enclosed area. So when you're kind of loading and offloading equipment, that could go inside an enclosed area. Have you thought any further about that at all? Because that was obviously raised quite a bit as well, kind of the loading of equipment and stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've just noticed Mr. Sykes and Ms. Mouth raised a couple of hands. So.
Yeah, Gareth.
But then we'll kind of.
Mine was really just a procedure point, Chair. Obviously, we're now considerably over the 15 minutes,
Yeah,
but
we are.
I gather we're probably going to continue. So I don't want to drop the discussions and the questions.
Yeah, we're on 37 minutes, so we're well over. Amanda.
Chair, could we have a 5-minute break?
Would people like a 5-minute break? 5-minute comfort break?
And what you could do is you could leave some of the questions which the appellant, which the applicant needs to answer, or for when you come back.
Yeah.
If you could
I'm
leave.
sorry, could you repeat that, please, Amanda?
I said, could you leave the applicant with any queries that need to be answered, so that in that 5-minute break they can also come back with them.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of distortion on the line here.
So I agree with a 5-minute break. Let's have a 5-minute break. Then the applicant can decide, talk to themselves about the conditions.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I'm saying Amanda's line is very distorted. I can't really hear what she's saying.
Okay. She was just saying, well, let's take a 5-minute break and the applicant can get back on with it when he comes back.
Okay, but time to consume some alcohol in the queue while we wait.
Yeah. Okay. See you in 5 minutes, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Cheers. Okay, are we all ready to come back? Jackie, are you there? Do you want to come back on some of the points that were raised before we left?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm here.
Great.
I mean, there are a few points raised.
Sorry to interrupt. Just want to double check that Gareth has resumed the meeting. Thank you.
Yes, I'm here. The recording is still continuing as same as the live stream.
Yeah, if you could take the sign off there.
Monsieur, if you're there, please, could you? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, carry on, Jack.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, just some general points, but a lot's been raised, so please direct me if you think I'm not answering points you'd like me to answer. But as you've heard, since this application has been made, but not before, concerns have been raised about the current operation of the venue. It's only since the application's been made that videos have started to come in and complaints made via representations have been made. Nothing's been made directly to the council before this, and we say that's not a coincidence. That being said, of course, the applicant is mindful of the concerns raised and they will be implementing measures. We've offered a condition dealing with supervision on Truman's Road and Salcombe Road. That's on the table if you are minded to grant, and also a commitment to enhance the queuing and dispersal policies with additional SIA supervisors. The applicant has met with local residents, and of those that have met, they're not in attendance this evening. We say that's relevant as well. And we also extend again an invitation to C7 and C11 to attend meetings, undertake sound tests with Mr. Charles, who is the independent arbiter in these proceedings. He was in 2023 and he can be again now, to ensure that those concerns are absolutely addressed, as lots of other local residents in the past have confirmed are addressed. I'll just hand you over to Oro now as well. And again, if we've missed anything, please let us know.
Yeah, thanks.
I'd just like to say, you know, from myself personally, not from Jack, my solicitor here that's helping out, but I do absolutely take residents' concerns seriously. I've worked with lots of residents over the last 20 years of doing this, and I do pride myself that when I am able to engage and work with residents in the manner that Jack suggested, for example, talking about issues that are arising in real time, or talking about noise breakout from sound systems, that we have resolved those, and that is why we're still here 20 years later. You know, taking that seriously is something we do and will do. And you know, I want Earth to continue and to thrive and survive and carry on doing what it's doing, and I know very well that if I don't do that, we won't be here. So I'm saying that I will take that responsibility. Thank you.
Yeah, and Jack, there was just one on the equipment loading business.
Of course.
Sort of within sensitive hours, which was kind of what the person's talked about, and the enclosed area. I think it was mentioned in there that was maybe a consideration around something like that. So we could hear about that.
So just in relation to photographs that were submitted a couple of hours ago, there's one photograph of some unloading and loading equipment that was taken, I think, around midnight, and that photograph was taken before a condition was imposed in 2021 restricting that type of activity in response to, I think, C11's objection. There are also photographs of much smaller vans, which we don't recognise as delivery vehicles for Earth, for the licensed premises, but are possibly for a catering company that operate within the building but are not caught by this license or related to Earth in that way. And I'll hand you over to Warren about covering the space.
Yeah, so the majority of loading and unloading that happens at Earth is to do with live music. You've got a van full of equipment and musical instruments and so on and so forth. And generally that's done at 2 o'clock in the afternoon for sound check and then load out after the event. We have had issues about loading with some of our local neighbours, and I had previously just suggested, beg your pardon, roofing over the backyard subject to planning. To be perfectly honest, we did put that on hold because we've just been making fairly horrendous financial losses and we just didn't have the money to do it. I'm very pleased to report that this year is the first year since COVID that we've turned a profit. And so if the committee would like me to, I can make an undertaking to investigate that roof over the backyard so that loading and unloading can happen inside. I would obviously enlist Richard Vivian as our expert acoustician to help with the design of that, to help reduce loading. And in terms of how that affects late night events, you know, a lot of these things are with DJs and they turn up with a memory stick, not a truck full of equipment. So it's more to do with early hours, but I do acknowledge that that has been a problem with some neighbours.
Okay, well, thank you for that. That's really good. I think we've had a good discussion. Members, just to give you another opportunity here to ask some more questions if you need to. Otherwise, we can just go into closing remarks. Any questions? Any further questions, members? Okay. Okay, so we'll go into closing remarks and let's start off, I think. Gareth, do you just want to just call people for closing remarks, please?
I'm not sure whether you want to do it in reverse, Chair, or start with
the other persons, I think.
Okay, so should I do it in reverse then, starting with supporters? Yeah. Okay, so just go back to my list. That would be C31 then, Lloyd Bent.
Yeah, it's kind of reflections, folks, and you know where you are now, really, after hearing all this.
If Lloyd is still with us, I do see him on the screen.
I am, yeah. With our closing remarks, our position hasn't changed really. We think they're a good operator. We think that the mitigatory measures that they've offered to do make their pitch for a license variation stronger, and we think that there would be a better positive benefit on the area should they be allowed to pursue these variations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Chair, next on my list, C22, Jessica Cole, if Jessica is still there.
I'm still here.
Good.
Yeah, just really glad to hear some like robust debate about this here outside the issue. Sympathetic with residents who do not have, you know, as good an experience as I've had living here about all the venues around here. But I personally feel, you know, confident in Earth and its management's ability to meet those concerns and their willingness to engage with people and to, you know, introduce controls as and when needed. Thank you very much, Chair and councillors, for the opportunity to speak.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you very much, Jessica.
Okay, Chair, the last of the other persons speaking in support, C12, Matt Wilson.
Yeah, I'd certainly encourage those people to engage with Earth and also the council. I understand one already has, but that seems like the right path to me. But yeah, I mean, just be careful what you wish for is all I'm going to say, because I've been here and I know what this area is like when there's not this kind of activity around. And if you want boarded up shops and dodgy characters hanging around, you might think back and wish that Earth was still here. That's what I'm going to say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. And then carry on, Gareth.
Okay, Chair, we're now going to C11, who is anonymous. Over to C11, please.
C11 still on the call.
They are on the screen, Chair. Their mic is muted. I will ask Elaine again. C11, are you there? Are you able to provide some closing remarks? Okay, Chair.
He might come back in a minute. Go on to Serena.
We'll go on to Serena. Jack.
Yeah, thank you. I think just to reiterate again, this has got nothing to do with opposition to culture and the vibrancy that Earth brings to the area. That's undisputed. The issue that we as residents have, and just to go back to a point that Jack made earlier as to why some of the residents who attended meetings aren't here. We've been speaking this morning. They wish that they were able to attend, but unfortunately they just can't. It's very much to do with lived experience and having your sleep disturbed regularly when you can see that there are no staff outside, which is not obviously a reassuring place to be, is just detrimental to well-being. And so we would just you know, really implore people to think about if you lived 20 meters from this venue. 3:30, there are plenty of venues in the area that are thriving and have 3:30 licenses. It's just about ensuring that it's managed effectively.
Yeah, thank you. Is
Mr.
C11
Chairman,
there?
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Closing remarks, please, C11.
Yeah, well, I want to just briefly respond to what the applicant offered. Made a complaint about the process, which I think is rather unfair considering. Had absolutely nothing to say about queuing and drinking in the queue to come in, nothing to say at all. And if you're just ignoring that, Mr. Chairman, then I think you're really just...
The thing is, I'm just wondering what the powers are, though, for the venue to deal with that.
Well, that's not for me to tell you, Mr. Chairman. All I'm saying is that obviously a clear issue. I've supplied you with photographs of people drinking lager, and people will be drunk. People will have drunk in the queue. What's the solution to that, Mr. Chairman, is not for me to say. I say don't have the later hours. But the bottom line is it's for the applicant to address. And the applicant has not addressed it at all. And no complaint about process can be sufficient to...
Well, we're going to note that.
Yeah, oh, yeah. So I noticed the applicant's not offering anything for Stoke Newington Road residents. No supervisors with body cams, etc. We just have to fend for ourselves. I have to point out that Chapel Lane, Mr. Chairman, is completely inappropriate to be directed to for pickups, because there are double red lines there. I supplied you with photographs. No conditions have been offered for equipment. It's just a sort of usual vague, we'll think about it kind of thing. I've had this for 8 years, Mr. Chairman. 8 years. It's ridiculous. It's all very well saying to me I can engage with the applicant. The applicant just doesn't want that condition, and unless you force it upon him, he will not have it. It will not be on the license. So, the idea that at the back there, it's a small area. You're not going to get a big Arctic truck out the back there. It's just not feasible. So the condition should be like any other premises. You just can't do that at sensitive hours. Simple as that. Why you and the applicant are resisting that is obviously it's commercial expediency and nothing to do with the licensing objective. Now, there are 1,200 people in that ground floor dispersal. It's a huge amount of people. It's almost, I would say, the equivalent of every other premises in the area north of Bradbury Street and up to Princess May Road. That could easily gather in every other venue that closes at 2 o'clock into this premises for a club night. That's what we're dealing with here. Till 5 o'clock in the morning, until 5:30 in the morning for close of operational hours. And believe me, one of your previous speakers, there'll be plenty of dodgy characters around at those hours, around Dalston. So I just say to you this, unless the applicant's just not prepared to compromise on the basic limitations of this premises. It's bang in the middle of a residential area. It's got no frontage. It's got no queuing facilities. Work with the council, sure, but 8 years later, all that street garbage is still out front, and the queuing is going round the corner. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, that's just not acceptable, especially when the area is full of bars and people will obviously be drinking. Now, look, I could go on about this, and I don't want to have a row with you or with the applicant, but there are limitations, and the applicant just doesn't accept limitations. He thinks that some paperwork will somehow mitigate the reality on the ground. And the reality on the ground is that this will cause a nuisance and there will be crime. And that's the long and the short of it. And there's nothing that will change that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, the committee.
Okay, Jack, I can see that you probably want to come back on some of those things. I know it's not the discussion, but I think there's some important things here to speak about. Drinking in the queue is one of them. What's your sort of take on that? I feel that that's kind of hard. And then there's the kind of loading of equipment and stuff. I mean, is there any way that we could think about sort of, you know, that in terms of late night loading and stuff? I mean, I know it's difficult because bands want to load up and go home after the gig and stuff, you know. But just thoughts really, very briefly on those two things.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So on the queuing management, we saw a couple of photographs that were served a couple of hours ago. Those photographs were from over 2 years ago. They show some people drinking. I'm not sure whether that's alcohol or whether it's a bottle of water, or don't know. We just don't know. But Steve, who's in the same physical room, has confirmed that the queues are regularly patrolled and supervised. And you're absolutely right, Chair. It can be difficult to absolutely prevent somebody from drinking something when they're off your premises, but they are very closely monitored. And if persons are drinking and clearly intoxicated, then they're just not permitted entry to the premises, and that's communicated to them in the queue. And that's how that's managed. And customers are often asked to stop drinking in the queue before they enter, and they often respond to that. But we're just looking at photographs a moment in time over 2 years ago. In respect of the unloading and unloading, Mr. Vivian will be able to confirm that he's actually helped other well-known big venues that face similar challenges with unloading kit I've forgotten the name of the procedure that he mentioned, but effectively a load in and load out policy, which deals with exactly that in terms of what vehicles are used, how equipment's moved off vehicles, how it's moved into the premises, and that would be a condition that the applicant could absolutely agree to, that a load in and load out policy is implemented by the applicant in consultation with Mr. Vivian and with the licensing authority.
That's great.
And then,
well, a policy, not a condition for a policy, not an absolute prohibition condition, but a condition for a policy. And the drinking, well, no hard condition there either. Just a policy, just a management issue.
Yeah, C11. We're gonna go away and think about these things.
And stop interrupting everybody.
Thank you. We are going to think about all this stuff.
Thank you, councillors. Just moving on to closing now, if I may. At risk of reiterating the point, the applicant does have a proven track record of addressing the type of concerns identified during this evening's hearing and in the written representations when brought to their attention and when they have the ability to engage with local residents. All of the things that you've raised, that have been raised this evening, will be taken on board, and there will be improvements that the local residents will benefit from, because now the applicant is aware of those issues. We spent a lot of time seeking to address those issues during the hearing, Chair, but for a moment, and just to finish with, can we please focus on some of the positives, some of the support as well? You've had over 200 letters of support from hyperlocal residents, Hackney residents, cultural institutions, the Mayor's office, local businesses, all asking you to please grant this application. It's also the premises that your own cumulative impact assessment identifies at paragraph 768 as a venue that promotes good dispersal techniques. You've heard Oro put his hands up to say maybe that slipped a little bit since the application's been made, but an independent assessment of that has confirmed that they are capable of dispersing their crowds quickly, safely, and at all times promoting the licensing objectives. That cumulative impact assessment also identified that Dalston was no longer suffering from the type of cumulative impact that warranted a special policy area. It's now a special consideration zone. The policy goes on to state that venues, independent cultural venues like Earth, have a positive impact in the area, and reiterating and emphasising what Mr. Wilson says, the area needs venues like Earth to continue that positive improvement. We appreciate you've got a difficult decision to make, Chair, of course we do. I'm glad I'm not you, but this is an application which has not been made lightly, and it is absolutely critical to the long-term viability of this really important social impact project. And I'm just going to hand you over to Oro just to finish briefly.
Thank you.
Thank you. At the risk of repeating myself, I'd just like to say that I do pride myself on being a responsible operator, as evidenced by the fact that I've been operating these kinds of venues in Hackney for 20 years now, and that if you are not a responsible operator and you don't take residents' feedback into account and then deal with it once it's come to your attention, you won't last, and neither should you. So again, I want to put myself forward to say I'm going to take these pieces of feedback, which are all very important, very seriously. We've put forward conditions. We're happy to work with David Tuitt or the licensing police to finesse those conditions until they feel that they're fit for purpose, and we will improve where we have slipped. But also, let's remember that we run some 500 events in Hackney each year. We've had over 500,000 people come through, and we've been working hard to make sure that that is viable in a residential area. We'll continue to do that, and we'll pay special consideration to what's come up this evening. And I think I'd like to leave it with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oro. So Gareth, correct me if I'm wrong, the only person that is left is Mr. Tuitt, is that right?
Funny enough, Chair, I was about to mention that, so you've anticipated what I was about to say. So yes, it is indeed. David is the last person.
Okay, Mr. Tuitt, on reflection, having heard all you've heard, how do you feel now?
Well, you've heard that there are still concerns about the impacts externally to this operation. So regardless of what the decision is made today, I think that it's clear that that's something that we need to look at. So I'm happy to work with Mr. Foxcroft on that. But yeah, I'll just leave it there, really, Chair. Obviously, it's a difficult decision to make, but like I say, regardless of what the decision is made today, we do need to look at those external impacts as a result of this operation.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much, everyone, for attending this meeting. Sorry it's gone over on the discussion, but I think it was worth having that discussion, really, to get all this kind of aired and out there in the open. So thank you, everyone, for that agenda item. You can all now leave and go off to have a nice rest of your evening. So thank you very much. And we shall move on to the next agenda item, which is...
Sorry, Chair.
Yep.
Could I have 2 minutes? My tablet's just died and I'm on my phone.
Yeah,
I want
of course
to
you
go
can,
and get
yeah.
a charger for my tablet.
Okay. So
you'll
could
come
I
back in
ask,
2 minutes.
so everybody for item 6 Earth, please leave the virtual meeting. So the only people left now will be the councillors, council officers, and obviously everybody here for the 10, which is bread and butter.
Yeah. We'll see you all in 2 minutes.
Yep. So if Mr. Vivian, if you could leave, and also David, I think, are you staying on?
I'm just going to stay on for observation.
Observation, right?
If that's okay.
Yeah. Fine. Well, not for me to decide, but so I think looking at my screen now, everybody's left is just for item 7. One moment, myself. I'm just going to leave for 1 second.
Yes, Councillor Patrick, have you managed to get yourself sorted?
Have a minute, please. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this for the people who are waiting for this agenda item. I know the last one went on a long time. That's quite an important one. So are we all ready to go? Councillor Patrick, are you okay? So let's wait a few seconds for Councillor Patrick.
Right, sorry. Oh.
Have you got it sorted now, yeah? Okay. So we'll move on to this agenda item, which is agenda item, what's the number of it? 7. Agenda item 7, so it's a 10 hearing. Would you like me to go through the hearing procedure? Should we just introduce people just very briefly on this one? PC Humwick, I know you introduced yourself at the start. Do you want to just make a quick introduction again?
Yeah, hello, Chair. It's PC Neil Humwick. I'm from the Police Licensing Department at Stonehenge Police Station.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Bread and Butter, you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, it's Ben. I'm in Bread and Butter.
Yeah, what's your name, please?
Ben.
Ben. Hi, Ben. Okay. Sorry that you've had to wait all this time, Ben.
The reception
Sorry about
from
that.
the premises licence holder isn't very good.
Sorry, say that again.
The reception, or we can't hear him very well. The
Mr. Whittle, are you able to go somewhere a bit quieter so we haven't got that background noise? Is that possible?
Is it pretty bad?
It's quite bad, yeah.
Yes, sorry.
I mean, you could just mute when you're not talking, maybe.
Yeah, that might be one way. Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, we'll see how we get on.
Okay, great. So I'll just go through the hearing procedure very, very quickly, just for everyone. Step 1, appointment of chair. We've done that. Step 2, the licensing officer will outline a report. Then responsible authorities will come in. Then we will have the license holder. The premises user will present their case in support of their application for this 10. Discussion, closing remarks, final clarification. So that's kind of how it's going to work. So let's invite Suba to come in with this one, outline the report for this one. Suba, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. So the next item we are considering is for a temporary notice, which was given to the licensing service in respect of the premises for Bread and Butter, 72 Rivington Street, for an event to be held from 1 minute past midnight till 3 a.m. on both the days of 6th of September and the 7th of September. We have received an objection from the police. That's why we have to list it for hearing. We have received an additional submission from the police with photograph and video images, and all these document has been circulated. And I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So over to you, PC Humwick, for your bit.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, police object to the 10 submitted for the 6th and 7th of September. As officers working on last Saturday night and into Sunday morning, which was the 23rd to the 24th of August in the Rivington Street area, came across the venue operating at 02:45 hours on a 10, which was specifically given for live music, and stated that all conditions would be followed in line with the licence. However, the front doors were open with a considerable noise escape occurring. The music was amplified and being played by DJs and was in no way live. Additionally, there were approximately 30 people standing outside, which is well in excess of the 8 which is stipulated under the condition for smoking outside. This has been recorded separately on the Officer Concerns body-worn video. Now, the problem here is this is far from being the first time that these failures have been observed, and this has been documented in previous warning letters, objection emails to temporary event notices, and in a meeting which we held with the venue and the late night levy manager on the 7th of August to basically go through the failings and a way forward in order to comply with their licensing conditions. Now, a problem is not necessarily, we're quite willing to work with the venue moving forward, However, on each occasion that we've engaged with the venue and the awarding letter has been issued, we're assured that it will never happen again, but lo and behold, it does. So on that basis, we're no longer happy at the moment to support any extension of hours until such time as the venue can be shown to be operating correctly up until midnight. We do not believe that any further extensions to 3 AM should be given. Now, my submissions and recordings show the level of noise. We've had to speak to the venue regarding the stable door being open on the first floor and also the ground floor doors. Now, I appreciate there's two separate wordings or conditions on the licence regarding the closure of those doors and windows. However, it shouldn't really take rocket science. If you can walk outside your venue and you can hear your bass banging away in the street, then you've got to understand that you're creating a noise nuisance. And on that basis, we request that a counter notice be issued on this particular 10. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, PC Home. There's two questions I'd like just to ask you, that point of clarity here. Condition 22 says all doors, excluding the front door at street level, in brackets, shall be kept closed during regulated entertainment. It's quite an unusual condition, to be honest with you, but it's a condition. And it's in there. How does that apply to the fact the door was open?
Well, the fact that you've got that condition allowed, it sort of says that it's okay for the door to be open. If you have a look separately, there's another condition that states all doors and windows should be closed whenever regulated entertainment is being undertaken.
When music is above background level.
Yeah, exactly. And it was above background level because obviously you could hear the bass in the street.
Yeah.
My issue there is, I know I can see there's a slight contradiction there on the conditions, but at the end of the day, you've got to work on the basis that if music is escaping through the ground floor door, just because a condition states that it's not a condition that has to be shut, you should still shut it.
Yeah, and just on this, because they've got another condition, 20, on page 30, about a sound limiting device. So you don't think that's really working then?
Well, I mean, as far as the sound is concerned, we've had noise. The council's had noise complaints from neighbouring venues because they're frightened or concerned that local residents will complain that it's their music that's creating the nuisance.
Yeah, and okay. My final point was about all patrons should be seated with no vertical drinking. So I'm trying to get my head around that one. Is that because of the new alfresco situation down there? Like they want people to be sitting at tables in the alfresco zone, but if this place doesn't do food, for example, that's going to be tricky, isn't it? Like,
well, I mean, the alfresco was for food and drink, but basically the problem here is that this was not during the alfresco trial. These hours that we've seen these 30 people standing outside, they were standing there with drinks, they had straws that were going in and out of the venue, so there was no doubt from where they were coming from. That was outside of the alfresco trial times. Separately, during the alfresco trial times, we found and had photographic evidence of patrons standing. And this was again made perfectly clear that the trial was subject to all patrons being seated. So all I'm just trying to demonstrate here is that we've got a venue that is not capable or doesn't seem capable of complying with basic operating standards. And if you're giving somebody the ability to join in with an alfresco trial where the rules state that all customers must be seated outside and yet you're allowing vertical drinking, it's a very simple thing. You know, it's not complicated.
Yeah, well, thank you for that clarity. That clears things up a lot on that point. Great. Well, thank you, PC Homework. Would members like to come in with any points of clarity to the police here at this stage before the discussion? Happy to move on. Okay. Just invite Ben to come back just on some of the points really that PC Homework has raised and also about some of these breaches that he's talking about.
Yep, sure. Yeah, appreciate your time on this. So just coming back on points. Obviously we stated the live music on our last terms. We weren't aware this couldn't count DJs. That wasn't done.
Yeah, Ben, can you get a bit closer to the microphone? 'Cause it's quite hard to hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
A little bit better.
So not being rude, perhaps the Ben could take his hands away from his face.
No, this
That's
is
the
the
microphone.
microphone. Yeah.
Oh, right, sorry,
This
I
one.
can't hear him.
All right. Can you hear me or no?
Yep. Go on.
Okay. So yeah, just on that point, the live music We weren't aware that this wasn't allowed to have DJs, so that's now been brought to our attention. So moving forward, we'll always include
Yeah,
that
Ben,
as
you need to
amplified
speak
music.
up a
Yeah,
little
it's
bit.
still not good. Yeah, it's
I
still
know
not
you're in a
good.
cafe or something, but you need to speak up a bit.
Sorry. Yeah, so the live music element that we weren't aware that this wasn't allowed to count DJs, so we'll make that adjustment moving forward. Yeah, the front door issue, obviously that is our only front door or only door. So we can, if you guys think it's appropriate, we can have the door shut, but yeah, obviously it's quite difficult for us to manage really just fully closing the whole thing essentially. And obviously with the two clauses within our license, one saying that we can have the front door open, has been slightly problematic, but if the overarching rule is that the noise comes first, then we can of course close the door and have the security guard open it every time someone come in and out. And then finally on the alfresco point, we did appreciate that did happen one time, and then ever since then we've had to be seated throughout. And then I guess just the final point on the wider area, we appreciate some support within our smoking areas. Like, are we able to close, put barriers up so we can more easily manage 8 people? Because obviously we're straight into Rivington Street, which is like a residential road in evenings. So are we able to maybe put some barriers out so we can contain that, and then it's quite clear what's ours and what's
Yeah, it is hard to hear because there's quite a bit of interference there, but
Yeah, Chair, I don't think that you've been able to hear properly any of that. It's really been difficult.
yeah, Ben, is there a quieter place you could go to maybe just to...
Yeah, let me go.
That's a bit better now. I think
it's better here.
Yeah, I think, Ben, can you still hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I think basically the police have been concerned about a few things, and they feel that they've not been listened. You haven't listened to them. You know, he has said that they're willing to work with you on this stuff to get it right. But when you've got conditions and things in your license, you have to go with that. You have to know what they are, and you have to abide by them. I mean, that's really what you should be doing. Everyone's happy to work with you on this if you're prepared to work with them. So that's the key thing.
Yep.
You know, are you prepared to work with the police on these things?
Yeah, 100%. I think we have obviously just made some errors in the start of the alfresco that's made things a little bit like some blurred lines.
Yeah.
The doors we have been closing, there was obviously some issues earlier in the year, but then there's the front door, which...
And what about the noise limiter, Ben? How's the noise limiter working? Because that doesn't seem to be working at the moment.
Well, the issue is that it's kind of since the alfresco came in, we then put a system onto the ground floor where the door is open because it's our front door. So after within the meeting, we sort of had agreed that you could have noise as long as you could still speak, like people could speak in the street, but a slight bit of noise could still go into the street. Yeah. But I guess that is only within the alfresco hours. So I guess we just need some clarification on that.
Well, I mean, I think having a sound limiter on the ground floor would be useful as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's the mixture of both. So the door, like we are happy to close it if that's what you guys require. And then obviously that also impacts the noise escaping. And we can obviously also put a sound limit onto the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element of common sense here. You know what I mean? Like if it's reasonably quiet, then you can keep the door open. If it's like too noisy, then shut the door, because you need ventilation. It's a small space, especially in those hot summer days. So it's about common sense, really, I think. Anyway, shall we move on to the discussion, folks? Should we, Councillor Palace and Councillor Patrick?
I don't have any questions, Chair. I think you've covered all the points I wanted to cover.
Okay, great. And Councillor Patrick?
Yeah, Victoria, you've covered it all, I think.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll just go for closing remarks now. Councillor PC Hunwick, do you want to come back with a few points here?
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. We've stated this before to Ben. We want to see, from a policing point of view, the operation succeed, but we want to see it succeed initially within its own licensed hours before it seeks to start extending to 3 in the morning. It's already got till midnight, and it's repeatedly, at least once a month, we're finding that with the same old default positions happening, with doors left open and people standing in the street. We've spoken to the venue on each occasion. We've been promised it won't happen again, and it's happened again. So now we're not at the "I promise it won't happen again" stage. We're at the we want to see that it doesn't happen again. And on that basis, I'm not happy to support this particular.
Okay, thank you very much. We're getting feedback off you, Ben, now as well.
Yes, Ben, can I mute you, please? We get a lot of background noise there. Please.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Did members hear that from PC Hunwick? Yeah?
Yeah, I heard PC Hunwick, fine.
Okay, great. Amanda?
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to clarify, if you want to clarify with PC Hunwick, that nothing that he's heard from the premises licence holder has changed his mind about allowing these events on the 6th and 7th. Because I think you need to be very clear about whether or not anything can be achieved in order to allow these events, or whether or not we are still proceeding, that they're still seeking a counter notice regardless of what's been said. Thank you.
Yeah, that's to you, PC Hunwick.
Yeah, no, I did summarise with that. I mean, basically, we've been promised before that, you know, we will be compliant and there will be no noise issues and all the rest of it. And it's reoccurred, that it's reoccurred. We've been promised again and it's reoccurred. And we're now at the stage now whereby the only way we're going to be satisfied is for the venue to actually have a track record of compliance and not causing a noise nuisance. And until we see that, I'm not happy to support this event or any further 10s.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. And Ben, do you want to come back with your closing remarks on this?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that we've had, I think, 13 10s. We've had our license for coming up to a year now. And though I do appreciate we have made some errors along the line, we've also hosted 100 events in that time where I've had absolutely no issues. As far as I know, we have very low complaints from neighbours. And then the alfresco dining, as much as it is amazing, it also did create a little bit of confusion that we've been trying to adapt to, and we have always adapted straight away after meetings like this with the Council Council.
Yeah.
And yeah, we are just a young, small growing brand, sort of trying to.
Yeah. So, you know, but I don't have to tell you this, Ben, but it's really important to know what the rules are. It's really important to know what the conditions in your license are. It's really important to know how the alfresco thing's meant to work and try and work within that framework. And of course, the licensing authority will be able to help you on the smoking thing, like sort of having a little area fenced off or whatever for the smokers, all that kind of thing. So reach out to the licensing authority; they will help you with this. So yeah, and the police obviously as well. PC Hunwick's very happy to come and help you with that stuff. So just reach out to them. Yeah, I think we're done, folks. We've had the discussion, closing remarks. Any point of final clarification? No? Okay, great. Thank you very much. That's it. So thank you for attending the meeting, Ben. Thanks for your patience. I know you had to wait a long time. Thank you, PC Hunwick, for your patience as well. I know you've been sitting on this call all night and you could have been out there kind of enjoying yourself.
Okay, right.
Oh.
Thank you, everybody.
Amanda's just raised her hand.
Yeah, Amanda.
Yes, I was just going to clarify that the decision for this temporary event notice will be out tomorrow. So you won't get the decision tonight. It will be tomorrow. So as soon as we can, probably is lunchtime tomorrow okay, or early afternoon, or do you need it earlier?
Yeah. Well, as soon as you can, really.
Yeah, I'm just checking with them because I need to make sure I'm working to their timescale.
We obviously need to communicate with our people and that are in the events as well as staff, etc. So yeah, just as soon as
Yes, I'm saying though that the decision won't be issued until probably around lunchtime tomorrow, the earliest. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there being no further business for consideration this evening, I draw this meeting to a close. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, could I ask Monsieur then please to end the
Can all
live
now
stream
leave.
of the recording?